what I also think, maybe you can share your opinion about it, that the tribe of the church or religion was a part of also of bonding and attachment. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think in America you have more faith still than in Holland. We are like more liberal. There's not so much people go to church anymore. What is your view on that?
Well, it's interesting. I think the U.S. is becoming more secular.
Secular, that means
not connected to a church, or people identify as having a religion but don't go to church.
Oh, okay.
Now, but I do think that a community of faith can be one of those anchors for people. And it's interesting. There's a hunger, I think, for many people to be connected, to feel connected to something. And I'm not sure what it is, what people are replacing church with. But I do think that people are
the phone.
Yeah, the phone. Exactly. Lots of people on the phone.
Oh.
But I have to say, I part of me is reluctant to go after technology too much, because I think that once we learn how to manage technology, we develop better sort of I guess I'd call it sort of screen hygiene.
Yeah, I remember you. Yeah.
I think that we can then take advantage of these amazing technologies. Like, look at this. You and I are having a conversation across,
It's so cool, right? Yeah.
It's pretty cool, right? And the technology is good enough that I see you, you see me, you can kind of look at facial expressions. So you get, it's very different than a phone call, right? Or a letter, or, so I do think that technologies can be used in a really positive way, but I also think that we just have to learn how to regulate.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to, put them down and not use them in certain meetings, put them down and not use them during family times, put them down and not use them when we're out on a hike. If you're really out enjoying nature, don't talk on the phone. I mean, just, just enjoy nature, or, whatever.
But I like you. Is it your word, technical hygiene? Because I love that word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some other people may have used it, but as far as I know.
I like that word. Yeah. And you also had the reference of, like, when we had cars, first there were no rules, there was no driving license, and then at one point we learned to regulate,
exactly,
to have a car in society, and we might do that with the phone too.
Yeah. No, I think that's what we have to do. I think about other big public health questions, like, I know this is, I don't want to sound crude or anything, but for the longest time in actually in many cultures in the Western world, for example, New York or London, these big cities, people would go to the bathroom wherever they wanted to. They would literally, on the street, anywhere, or they'd go in their buckets and they just throw the buckets out the window, right?
Oh, okay.
So there was crap everywhere. And so once the connection was made between disease and sanitation, we decided to basically do a couple of things. First of all, was a big public engagement campaign, which took decades, because people didn't believe it. People didn't believe that these diseases were connected to sewage, and that washing your hands after you would go to the bathroom was good for your health. All of that stuff took a long time to build in sort of these cultural practices around going to the bathroom. So now, kids that grow up now, it's very, we toilet train them. We teach them, well, there are places where you go to the bathroom and places where you don't go to the bathroom. And we're going to do that. We'll have to do the same thing with screens, with the phones. We'll literally develop the ability to raise our kids in an environment where there are very clear expectations and rules about when you do that and when you don't. And I think that it's just a matter of will. once there's a broad enough awareness that nonstop exposure to screens is not good for people, then we'll come up with ways to sort of regulate that. So.
And when you say that's not good for people, for brains of people, can you explain a little bit more like that? Is it because I don't know how to explain it very well. Maybe you can explain why it's not good to be on the screen for too long.
Right. Well, there's a couple reasons. First one is that it turns out that particularly when you're young, if you're on a screen a lot, it influences the way your brain develops. Now, we don't know for sure whether that's bad, but the studies that show lots of screen time lead to changes in the brain, and then there are studies that show lots of screen time lead to increased rates of attention problem and under socialization. So those three things might be connected. Mm-hmm. So I think as more information is gathered, we'll be able to say, all right, for children at certain ages, X amount of screen time is okay, but you shouldn't do that into, it's like alcohol, right? So we know that if we give a developing brain alcohol, it has worse impact than if you give a 25-year-old alcohol.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing with screens. If we have lots of screen time when the brain is rapidly organizing and developing, that's probably not good for it. And then the second problem really is that screen time is time taken away from other time. So the more you're doing screen time, the less you're understanding, what a nonverbal communication is.
Yeah.
Or how do you actually have a conversation with somebody? You look at them in the eyes for how long? When you're having a conversation, how do you stay engaged in a way that it feels respectful? It helps you really hear them. You have to learn how to listen. And if we don't give children opportunities to do that, by giving them repetition and repetition and repetition and repetition, they're not going to develop those capabilities. And I think that's what's happening actually now. In the US, one of the biggest problems that we're having is that young adults are entering the workforce without the social skills to succeed. They don't know how to respectfully sit in a meeting.
Yeah.
They don't know how to engage a new client in a way that the client feels like they're, being, heard. They're not good at sharing. All these soft skills that make you successful in life, we're developing 20, 22, 23-year-old kids that really have the social skills of, 10, 11, and 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm rambling.
Yeah, and I see that also in with my son. You have like 3-4 boys in a room. They're all like this.
Yeah.
But the parents are struggling because it's new to us too.
Yeah.
We didn't invent the rules yet, like with being outside in a bucket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what time did we start? Did we start?
At 4:00. Oh, okay. Yes.
So,
thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, and I'd be happy to do this again at some point. We can, talk to Tony, talk to Roland.
I will say hello.
Say hello, learn a little bit about what they're doing, and I think we're happy to support what you're doing. I think it's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.